So get this, podcast listeners. A professor assaults a student just because the student is holding a different opinion. So the professor faces years in prison, potentially, after allegedly bloodying the face of an anti-vax mandate student. A professor has been charged with assault after allegedly bloodying the face of a student who engaged in a peaceful demonstration against the idea of vaccine mandates on campus. Just another day in dystopia, right? And by the way, this is in the Western Journal. On August 27th, students and faculty at Pennsylvania State University held a rally advocating for a COVID-19 vaccine mandate. So there was, on Pennsylvania State University, there was a rally, and there were students and professors who wanted a vaccine mandate. Pretty funny, huh? Professors who are supposed to teach critical thinking skills and about freedom. And this is the ultimate place in your life when you're supposed to be free, is when you're on campus. And if you're vaccinated, why do you care anyway, if you're a professor, about who isn't? But nonetheless, they want mandates. As the school is one of the few Big Ten conference schools that have yet to make the requirement for vaccine mandates on campus. You read that right. This was a rally calling for a mandate, presumably attended by people who had all, out of their own free will, been vaccinated themselves, as is well within their right to do so. Yet, they were not satisfied with the ability to get vaccinated and were there to demand that school administrators demand that everyone else get vaccinated too. So when a counter-protester from the student group, Penn State Resistance, showed up to hold up a sign opposing the proposition of a mandate, things got heated. The Epoch Times reported that 36-year-old professor Walter Oliver Baker has been charged with assault, a second-degree misdemeanor, disorderly conduct, a third-degree misdemeanor, and harassment after he allegedly got into a scuffle with Avery Rockland, the leader of Penn State Resistance, over the latter's anti-mandate sign. Once again, it was in the 1960s, podcast listeners, that the Democrats were the resistance. They were the resistance on campus. And in many cases, you had professors with them being the resistance against the Vietnam War and, anti-everything, of course. Now it's the Republicans who are the resistance against a Stalinist state and Stalinist universities, and the professors are all for the Stalinism. It's completely flipped the opposite way. Baker, the professor, could be facing a fine up to $5,000 and up to 2 years in prison. A video posted to Twitter appears to show the incident in which a man identified as Baker is seen appearing to snatch the counter-protester's sign away from him before pulling him to the ground. So Rockland, who is the protester, he's the anti-vax guy, the freedom guy. By the way, that's what we should say now. You're not anti-vax, you're pro-freedom. Rockland was reportedly seen being led away by campus police after the alleged incident with a bloodied face. So the student had a bloodied face as a result of the professor. And, the police, of course, take him away too. Baker's faculty bio, the professor, describes him as a professor of English and African American studies who specializes in critical race theory. Not critical thinking, critical race theory, which is antithetical to critical thinking. Baker's areas of research include critical ethnic studies, 19th century American literature and culture, critiques of racial capitalism and settler colonialism, and histories of African, Native, Chicanx, and working class liberation movements, the bio reads. I got to read this again. This professor, Baker, his areas of research include critical ethnic studies, 19th century American literature and culture, critiques of racial capitalism and settler colonialism, and histories of African, Native, Chicanx, and working class liberation movements, the bio reads. As you can imagine, such an accomplished radical could most certainly not be expected to remain calm when confronted with the existence of a person who held a different opinion about campus vaccine requirements. So, We have a rally in favor of mandatory vaccinations and a professor who specializes in critical race theory. So the introduction of a counter-protester who dared to express opposition was basically asking for trouble and not allowed. It was bound to get violent and confrontational because these are the people who actually believe in using force or flat-out violence against the groups who will not comply and their demands for society, with their demands for society. The fact that someone was bound to snap is all the more reason why these kinds of demonstrations should and must occur. We cannot continue to let the ideological bullies win, and it's good that this professor is being held accountable for his actions if he did indeed assault this student, which it sure the heck looks like it when you see it on the Twitter video, which I believe we have. Don't we, Christopher? Let's play it. Here it is. Just listen.
Josh Courtney, we got the student. This event was organized by the... Okay.
Fuck off! Get the fuck off! You're the one who shot to my poster, bro.
So you heard the language, and basically this student was being attacked. It's on video. I would imagine you could probably improve and enhance the video to see Mr. Baker or Professor Baker there. Yes, we must call him Professor, even though he's, of course, accomplished nothing in his life, certainly nothing with any of his studies, because none of them are useful. But nonetheless, this is what he does, the professor. He attacks this guy. It's on video, and these folks are losing their minds. I mean, they are just crazy. I don't understand why it is in modern America that the people that lack the critical thinking skills are the professors. I mean, they're the ones that are supposed to be teaching it, which we've talked about, I know, before in podcasts. But as this progresses, as the pandemic progresses, as people have more time on their hands, I think, and they're spending more time at home, whether they're working from home remotely or whether they are unemployed, and they're going online and they're spending more time researching what's actually happening in America, they're finding out that our universities are pretty messed up places. Not all of them, obviously, but many of them are really incredible, messed up places.